What R1 is doing is it's doing a chain of thought which is similar to O1, but it's fully public. They've released all the models, they've released all the code. You can talk to it, you can see the entire monologue, and they've also trained it with massively more limited data. So how would you train this if you were OpenAI or a big tech company? Well, what you would do is you would create a data set that says, here's a question, here's the chain of thought you should have been producing for this question, and here's the answer. Right? The question I often ask, which has been failed by things like ChatGPT before, is suppose you have a stack of 3 boxes, red, blue, and yellow. You take the blue one out and put it on the top, right? And then you add a 4th green box onto the top. Can you describe that stack of boxes? Now, I've asked ChatGPT this, and it often would fail at it until we got to the new reasoning models, the new chain of thought models, which start to perform a lot better on this kind of task. And we can actually see that happening here on DeepSeek R1. So if we look at the text, it's actually started discussing with itself about how to solve the problem. It comes up with some steps, it goes through, and it finally just produces the correct answer at the bottom. So you don't have to use the chain of thought to look at if you don't want to. From a research point of view, it's quite interesting, and the fact that it's open is really positive. But actually, this is a problem that would have been hard for this model to solve if it didn't have that chain of thought. So this chain of thought is what makes problems like this a bit more possible. What R1 is doing is turning it on its head a bit and training only using the answers, which is hugely easier because you need much less data. You don't need to have crafted clever internal monologues. The internal monologue comes out of the training process, which is super cool. So the way it works is you give it a question, and then you reward it. So reinforcement learning is this idea where it doesn't directly observe the actual correct answer. It gets a reward or it doesn't get a reward based on whether it was right or not, right? And so they've done this. What they've done is they've given it a load of maths problems and a load of maths answers, but they don't give it the answer. They just tell it whether it was right and whether it was wrong. And also they give it a small reward for having written some kind of internal monologue of the correct format. And over time, as it trains, the monologue gets better and better. And in the end, it has a chat with itself and then solves the problem. The really nice thing about it is that it's just much easier for someone like me to train a model like this. There are lots of data sets with questions in and answers. There are very many fewer data sets with really nice step-by-step instructions on how to solve the problem, because I don't know how to solve the problems either, by the way. And so, it makes this, and they've released it all open source. So it makes it much, much easier to do. So, 2 weeks ago, OpenAI was maybe one of the only companies that could do something like this. There's a handful of others. And suddenly now you can kind of do it at home. You will need, to train one of these models from scratch, you may need lots and lots of graphics cards, but massively limited numbers compared to what we had before. So big organizations, let's say the size of this university, could quite comfortably do this now, as opposed to it being totally out of reach, which is a bit of a game changer.